All right, everybody, I am back with a brand new DC update. I continue to be amazed at the amount of just craziness I see on social media and just how stupid people are with understanding business numbers and the correlation with the amount of people who go see films and what it actually means for the box office, as well as sales go for, the what I call the ecosystem with toys and other things. I have seen Flash toys in stores that have been reduced already. And the Flash actually leaked on Twitter the other day, and we're going to talk about how many views it actually got. And we're going to talk about how the interest for the DCEU is still there, and it backs up my point that James Gunn firing Henry Cavill, and I'm still going to call it firing because he was hired back by the studio. And even though he didn't have a contract, he still had a verbal agreement with Warner Brothers, and for them to renege on that and backtrack, he was still fired, okay? So everybody who comes in and say he wasn't fired, he was never hired in the first place, I'm done hearing it, okay? A verbal contract in this country is still a legal contract, and he definitely had something going with Warner Brothers, and then they reneged on it. Then you had James Gunn come in and talk about his reboot, and this is where the problem comes in. The amount of views on Twitter within the few hours that was up shows you people are still interested. They just won't go to the movies. They are not supporting the company anymore. So people come at me and try to say, it's dead, this is dead. I'm tired of hearing it. I'm just tired of it. It's not true. Everything I talk about when it comes to numbers are facts. And I've shown several graphics in the last couple of videos where it proves that more people were going to the movies before Hamada changed everything right after Aquaman. It's a fact. Those movies were actually profitable, and my very first picture in the photos today is going to bring up a very important point that's going to back up what I talked about with the whole movie ecosystem. So let's take a look at some of these photos. There's plenty to go over today. So first of all, somebody posted this, and this is very true, that Man of Steel made more money from product placement than the Suicide Squad took at the box office, which is interesting. Man of Steel was already going to be profiting before the movie even came out. Superman is already a $170 million brand superhero as Man of Steel tops the product placement charts. Even though it opens this week, before it opens this week, the latest Superman film has already brought in millions of dollars through product placement. This shows you how popular the DC brand was, and still is. But people choose what they want to spend money on. Just talk to McFarlane. McFarlane is selling a crap ton of DC toys. The interest in DC is still there. The problem is people are not invested in Warner Brothers specifically because they have mismanaged these properties. And this was the whole reason I originally wanted to start my channel about 4 years ago. Now, I only started my channel 2.5 years ago. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for the long term. And I'm hoping things will get better, but it's not going to happen under Gunn. And let's look at some other things here. This was the Flash's official take over the weekend, that it had, I believe it ended up being a 74% drop at the domestic box office from its first weekend. This is the highest drop ever for a superhero movie at the domestic box office. Here's what's crazy about this. The two biggest bombs for DC over the last 10 years was James Gunn's Suicide Squad and The Flash. And the two people that are moving forward with projects are James Gunn and Andy Muschietti, who directed this film. Now, the failure of this film has nothing to do with Andy Muschietti at all. So I'm not blaming him, but the people that had the two biggest failures are the ones that Warner Brothers are propping up for future projects. What kind of a backwards world do we live in where that happens in business? There's no other business that would survive with that kind of thinking. Now, this is interesting, and I do have to make a correction on this. So somebody said, got an update for you, Aaron. Sky has more information from a source regarding why the cost to license the DC properties at Netflix, and the word is nowhere even close to $1 billion. I'm hearing $250 million. Yep, $250 million to license and finish the story. So this goes based off of my last video. And first of all, I have to thank everybody for the support I have received up until this point. I my views right now and my subscriptions are off the charts. And I cannot tell you guys how appreciative I am of that. I have far more positive people in my comments than I do negative. And I'm telling you guys, I'm going to continue to bring you the news. And this is one of the things. My last video talking about everything being, done behind the scenes between Warner Brothers Discovery and Netflix, that information did come from Sky. Now, is he a 100% reliable source? No, he is not. That's why I said in my last video, you have to take this with a grain of salt. I know there are some people that follow me that have a big problem with Sky. I don't know the details on that. I bring the news as I find it. He was the source where I got this other information. Whether he's right or not, I don't know. The real fact is these talks are happening between Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Netflix, and they are going to be licensing stuff. To what degree, we do not know. That information is not going to be privy to people like me or Sky or anybody else. I know he is trying to get a big following right now, and this is one of the ways he's getting that to happen. So he's building a whole thing around, sell Snyderverse to Netflix. And that's great for him. If he can get that following and become one of those, positive forces here on YouTube, more power to him. But this is why he's doing this. It is to gain a following. And so I commend him for, trying to bring people in. But I want to bring you guys the most down-to-earth, realistic information I can. So to what degree those DC talks are going, I don't know. But it makes very good sense. One thing you have to remember is that Gal Gadot did come out and say there are talks going on behind the scenes for her to return as Wonder Woman. That'll be revealed at the right time. We know that Zaslav said there is a plan B, and I've had a lot of people come into my comments in the last couple of videos and say, you're just blowing smoke, you're making stuff up. No, that actually came from Zaslav himself. I have heard the actual audio from the investor call. He actually said that. So there is a plan B, and if you've noticed, since The Flash got released 2 weeks ago, Warner Brothers Discovery has been just completely quiet on Twitter, and so is James Gunn. Like, these people, there's something happening behind the scenes. It ain't good right now. They see that they've made a mistake. They know they've made a mistake. And either this is what they were hoping for, to completely finish off the DCEU, or Zaslav is finally realizing, yeah, this wasn't the best decision to make. And we're going to see how this evolves in the coming weeks. And I will be covering all of the information that I can find and bring to you guys as it gets released. So stick to my channel, and you will be updated from time to time. Now, this is something I wanted to show you guys that I thought was kind of hilarious. And somebody brought up an interesting point that I didn't even think of about The Flash. That this was Batfleck dealing with Kryptonians. So he bested Superman because he had time to prep. Michael Keaton and The Flash didn't stand a chance. He died in every iteration. The next photo is the telling one. It says, Bat Keaton, his return didn't last long. And someone said, and I didn't even think about this is a huge plot hole in the film. Ben did only fight one. And Flash didn't bother to mention they have a weakness called kryptonite in The Flash. And that's pretty hilarious. Why did Barry not mention kryptonite to them when they went to go fight these individuals? Like, that is a huge plot hole in The Flash. It just is. This shows you how poorly written and poorly thrown together that this movie was. And I heard that the person who wrote this, and I haven't checked, was the same person who did Birds of Prey, which is the worst story I have ever seen DC put out in a film. It was just juvenile and stupid. This also came across my plate that DC still confirms that they are in search of a new Batman actor in the DCU. I really hope that's the case, because the one thing The Flash did not do is it did not erase the DCEU, and it didn't set up the DCU. And this is the funny thing. The one thing it did do is it did confirm that Zack Snyder's Justice League is canon. It definitely did that. On the other side of this, it didn't do anything to hurt the DCEU, and it didn't do anything to help the DCU. So this movie is kind of in limbo. It doesn't make sense with the plans that James Gunn is doing. And James Gunn keeps making comments about how somebody asked him about how are we going to still have Waller and Peacemaker but not the other characters. And he keeps saying that the Flash reset some things but not everything. That still doesn't make sense. He's picking and choosing. He's using that as a cop-out to keep the people he wanted for his universe. It's all about Gunn. It's all about James Gunn. So this is the big part of the story here, and this is pretty crazy. So it said the Flash leaked on Twitter to 1.7 million views. Apparently, the whole entire movie got released on Twitter. Somebody illegally uploaded it, and it had 1.7 million views. I didn't even hear about it. But some people did, and this video now is going to be posted everywhere. You're going to start seeing it pop up on torrents and everything else, and which is crazy because it's still in theaters. This shows you that the interest for the DCEU is still there. People just are not willing to spend the money on it because of James Gunn, because of David Zaslav, and the decisions that the studio has made. The interest is still there. I bet you a lot of people want to go, but they're digging their heels in. Guys, it's crazy times out there right now with the whole DCEU and the DCU. Nothing is dead. Nothing is new. The DCU is not dead. We don't know what's going to happen. The DCU hasn't even started yet. James Gunn can make all the claims he wants. Until we actually see a movie released, Warner Brothers Discovery doesn't have the money. This is why they're licensing stuff out. So for anybody to believe that the DCU cannot continue or won't continue, you're not being honest with yourself. It's the Snyderverse, and I use the Snyderverse loosely. I mean the DCU is not dead. There's still interest in it, and the proof was there with Black Adam. You've got people out there now even admitting Black Adam wasn't as bad as they claimed it was. People are now making excuses. Not excuses, but they're more warming up to Black Adam. That's when people started having interest again. The internet was on fire with the announcement of Henry Cavill being back. The interest was finally coming back, and then James Gunn came in and they blew everything up. How Zaslav, as a businessman, could think that what they decided to do was the right thing to do is mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. How you could sabotage the next 4 films like that. They have investors they still have to get their money back, too. And The Flash is now the biggest comic book bomb in box office history. Congratulations, James Gunn. Not only did you have the worst DCEU film for box office returns, but now you created the biggest box office bomb ever for comic book movies. Congratulations, buddy. I hope you're happy. All right, guys, there's my update for the time being. I will be back with more updates this week. I do appreciate all the support. This month was a massive month on my channel, and I look forward to continuing that. I do appreciate the support. The more you guys like the video, the more it will be shared. I cannot stress how important it is to like the video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and also share my videos where you can. Get the news out there. I am enjoying this ride, and I'm here for the long term. We will see you on the next video.